We are back here second week in a row with the old table talking. What kind is that? Strawberry?
Grapefruit.
Grapefruit. Blackberry is my favorite.
Apple's pretty good.
Thanks for interrupting my intro.
Start over.
I'm sorry.
Do it again.
I see a thing and I can't not comment on it.
Do it again. Start from the top.
More of a me problem than a you problem. But anyways, second week in a row with our table talking. Last week we talked about Mask of the Worms from the Arcane Library. Both our review and the playthrough are up on our YouTube channel and podcast. If you'd like to check those out, please do so. We had a good time playing with some community members in the one shot, and then we turned around and reviewed the module. Good things coming from the Arcane Library, guys. If you want to know more, like I said, watch that video or listen to the podcast. We got another Arcane Library one shot coming up mid-March, DM'd by me. Super excited about that. Speaking of one shots, if you'd like to get in one, let us know down in the Discord. Come on in and we'll get you in. We do have some openings coming up. We got some things that are moving around in the schedule that we're trying to hammer down before we put out a bunch more one shots, but we got some out there, and as long as you guys are itching for them, we'll scratch.
I would like to say we do have the ability to apply to be a GM or a DM. Chris, if you want to.
True. Yeah. So we're toying with the idea of accepting outside applications for DMs and game masters in our FeatherFall community one shots. So again, that document is going to go live here pretty quick. We're going through some final edits and just making sure it's user friendly for anybody that would like to. So another way to find that would be down in our Discord, in our community one shot channel, in the pinned documents here real soon. That'll be there. So if you are interested in DMing a one shot in our community one shot channel, that opportunity will come to you. Sponsorships. I got the checklist rolling around up there, the things I have to say. One of them, sponsorships. We have two of them. One is Found Familiar. I do it every time because it's FeatherFall and Found Familiar. I don't know which one's going to come out. But let's start with Found Familiar Coffee. That's a good one. We have a code that you can use at checkout. FeatherFall at checkout saves you 10%. They got... I'm so jealous seeing all these people tag them on Twitter like, ooh, we got coffee, because I want some. And I haven't been able to order some, but soon. The stuff I did order was very delicious. So check that out. Found Familiar Coffee, code FeatherFall in checkout, get you 10%. Skull Splitter Dice are the other ones, longtime sponsors of our channel here. FeatherFall in checkout saves you 10%. I haven't seen their newest dice set yet, but they did have a New Year's starry night that looked pretty cool. But again, for their price of metal dice and the way they feel and roll, I don't think you could do any better. So check them out if you need some new dice. That's it for sponsorships. Upcoming stuff. Curse of Strahd. We are 2 episodes in. We're taking a couple weeks off. We'll be back February 2nd with episode 3. I'm DMing that. Bob's a player character in there, as well as Adam Aslamus, the DM from The Gods We Know, and some other fine people. And then T-Guac is off this week. And if you don't know what T-Guac is, that's The Gods We Know. They stream on Tuesday nights. They are not officially off. The Gods We Know is off. Jen is going to DM a one-shot in her homebrew world. So if you're down for that, join them Tuesday at 6 Pacific time, I believe. 6 Pacific time. Again, all that will be on the tweeters, and we'll get those messages to you. So, there we are.
We're done. Let's move it. Let's move on. Let's go.
I know. Sometimes we need to have, just a pre-recorded segment that is just hit play and let the ads roll, and then we come back.
Yeah.
But, so there's been quite an uproar in the old D&D community. Some things hitting the wire that I think we need to talk about, and that's really the reason why we're here. Wildemount and Wildebeest. And on top of that, there's even Unearthed Arcana. How dare they give us a 1-2 punch of content to review with Wildemount and the Unearthed Arcana Part 1, which tells me there's going to be a Part 2, maybe Part 3. But we'll save that for another talk. Right now, we want to talk about Wildemount and some of the things that are happening with that. And in case you don't know, what is Wildemount, you ask? Well, that is Matt... Ooh, there's the picture. Holy cow. Wildemount is a creation of Matt Mercer. It's his homebrew world that is now no longer... You can't call it homebrew anymore now that it's a published thing, right?
Yep.
And this is where the current story arc for Critical Role and the Mighty Nine is taking place here in Wildemount. And this is now published in not a campaign setting. It is not a module, but a campaign setting. When this was announced, it was kind of upsetting. I'm gonna get real. Gonna take a knee on this one and get real. It was kind of upsetting some of the fanfare that was coming, or lack thereof, was being thrown this way. And I think this is where I want to start this talk, in kind of some of the flack that Wizards of the Coast was getting, and then that trickulated down to Critical Role and ultimately landed on Matt Mercer's shoulders. I was just struggling to find out how it's needed, and then the second, like, why are we shitting on stuff? Like, that was my biggest thing.
So I agree. And somebody in our Discord, I think it was Alex the DM, said, "Don't yuck on somebody's yum." And
yeah,
and for me that was such a good analogy for this, because a couple things, and I don't want to just jump deep. I want to hit the surface first. First off, more D&D content is good. More is good, for the most part. Now, too much is too much, and you can't consume it all, and it becomes a problem, right? But more is good, and I think this is a great thing. I am disappointed in this community as a whole, because Matt Mercer, he's so famous that he's become a villain, and he's become it is so frustrating, because that's what everybody wants to do, right? Matt Mercer and Critical Role is the gold standard of streaming D&D playthroughs. They are actors. They get paid to do this. They do it very, very well, though. And it's because he's so famous that people kind of poo-poo on it, and that's not fair. The guy... So he took to Reddit after all of this negativity came out, and he wrote this super long, heartfelt just post, and it really makes you think, this guy is extremely sincere. He loves what he does, and he's doing it for the fans. Yeah. If it's not for you, it's not for you. Move on.
Right. And he addressed that, and he gave everybody as Matt Mercer would, in such a polite way, he gave them, here's the exit, right? If this isn't for you, here's the exit. Like, you don't need this. And I struggle thinking, like, is this because Critical Role is a new thing within the last 4 or 5 years, that it's OG diehard D&D versus this machine that is Critical Role,
right?
And we know the power that Critical Role has. I mean, their Kickstarter was just insane. Watching just the dollar signs tick in, Critical Role fans come out in droves and with a presence and pay and show their love with their pocket.
100%. And so Del Rock in the chat, I don't even slightly understand the problem people have. Critical Role has helped keep the brand's pulse going, let them have a say, but 100%.
So true.
Without Critical Role, D&D would not be as popular as it is today. So it is this huge resurgence that you can't not think what Geek and Sundry did and Critical Role did.
Right. I think a lot of Wizards of the Coast and 5e success is due to Geek and Sundry taking that risk and putting Critical Role on there, and then Critical Role taking another risk and branding themselves away from Geek and Sundry and taking that step and becoming this full-fledged business. And like my interest in D&D started when, Bob, you asked me if I wanted to play, and then right after that I started Critical Role, like getting into it. I went back and watched it, and they were probably like episode 80 in campaign 1, and I went back and watched it all, and I'm up to date with campaign 2. It's just something that I'm invested in, and I would spend my $30 and get this book, right?
100%.
And you shared some numbers with me about its pre-sale on D&D Beyond.
So pre-orders, we're going to touch on pre-orders real quick. On D&D Beyond, by Monday, they're tracking it to be the most popular pre-order ever out of anything that's been listed. So Descent into Avernus launched in like May, and so it didn't launch. The pre-order launched in May, and that's their highest. Critical Role book is already going to beat it, and it's nuts.
Yep. And it comes out mid-March, right? So there's months.
It took a week to beat what Descent into Avernus did in months. Yeah. It's also number 18 on Amazon right now. 13.
Yeah, it was 12 or 13 on books as a whole.
It's also number 1 in just D&D.
Number 1 in tabletop D&D books, right?
It's got huge backing. It's also got a huge set of flack. I think people were a little bit upset with it not being what they wanted. Okay, fine. But guess what? This is already done, and it's just Wizards of the Coast reimaging what Matt Mercer did. So it didn't take a lot from them. Matt Mercer in his Reddit post said this does not hinder what Wizards of the Coast already has.
And I believe him.
Agreed.
I can't see Matt Mercer feeding us a line. And I don't see how Wizards of the Coast getting this influx of Critical Role money is going to slow them down.
Right.
They have enough people on staff, and especially if Matt Mercer, like James Hayek, I hope I'm saying his name right, and there was a third, I can't remember his name, James something, I can't remember his name, but they were involved in the writing of this. But there's enough other writers on that staff that is keeping that content coming.
Right.
And I don't know how getting more money is going to lessen the content.
Right. So, in a couple other, before we sing its praises too much more, a couple of other things. This is the only other world that has been added besides Eberron. So Eberron is not new to 5e, but it's back. It's been there for a while. But this is the only other world that's here, which is great, right? So good for Matt Mercer. When David Krennic said it to him in the D&D Beyond, you could see the genuine light bulb that went off,
that level.
Oh crap! I'm at that level now, which is great. Okay,
yeah.
So let's talk about what this includes.
Yeah, I think we can move on from kind of justifying its purpose and its reason for being.
Right.
Again, if you don't like it, something's coming down the pipe that you will like, and if you don't like that, you can always create your own stuff. Right. That's a thing that you can do. There are enough homebrew worlds out there. DM's Guild is a thing. There's a lot out there for you. So, moving on, I think it's justified in being a thing that is now in the hands of players and DMs alike. Okay, so those notes, done. Moving on. So we could kind of talk about what you get here. Like, what's going to be in this tome of a book at 304 pages. We were just looking at Eberron is like 288. So there's more pages than Eberron, and I got Eberron for Christmas, and that thing's a thick book, man. So I'm excited. It's monster manual thickness, So there's a lot of content coming in this book, and what we know about Matt Mercer is it's going to be quality, well thought out content.
Right.
So let's go through some of the stats of the book. Is 304 pages, filled with Critical Role fan art, which I think is another awesome way, just showing love for the community and showing back to these fans that are investing their time and their money in them.
I agree.
Which Wizards of the Coast is like signing off on that, because I believe Wizards could have said like, no, we're gonna have in-house guys do it.
Yeah, so it's 50% community art, 50% Wizards art, which is awesome. And so what what they did was they sent all of this fan art to Wizards of the Coast and said, "Here, choose from this stuff," and that is so awesome. And it again, I'm going to go back to what we just talked about. It boggles my mind why people are upset. No other book has included community/fan art at all.
Yeah.
I mean, that is such a huge nod to the amazing community that is, tabletop RPGs. And it's like, then it gets this backlash.
Yeah.
Feels bad.
It does release on March 17th, like we said. I think that's everywhere. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's, you can get it at Amazon, D&D Beyond. I highly encourage you to support your friendly local gaming store. Please, get it there if you have the means. But it's when it comes out. So $29.99 on Amazon or on D&D Beyond and Amazon. Pre-order on D&D Beyond, you're getting a couple extra things. You get some exclusive character sheets and some backgrounds and stuff. That kind of cool. Adds some flavor and flair to your D&D Beyond screen. So that's kind of the details there. We have some time before it actually comes out. So what is in it? I think let's start with the subclasses. We're getting 3 that we know of that have been kind of released and talked about on D&D Beyond's talk show. 3 new subclasses that are all based around Dunamancy, which is the manipulation of probability, is how Mercer put it. So controlling time, controlling space, and the things around you. So there are 3. One is the Echo Knight, which is a fighter subclass. And that was kind of cool, talking about Echo Knights are tapping into other timelines and being able to pull out an outcome from there and put it in, and now make it this reality, and pull an outcome from there and put it in this reality. Kind of cool. Another fighter getting some love. I love fighters. I think they're kind of not underrepresented, but there's just like, ooh, poo-poo, that's a fighter. But no, fighters are kind of cool. And then we have 2 that I think are both wizard subclasses. One is the Chronergist, and one is the Graviturgist. I don't know how I feel about those names, but the Chronergist is a little better. Those are both wizard.
Yeah, subclasses. Which the Chronergist, that's gonna be so hard. I have a terrible time saying normal sounding words that now you add these really complex mouthfuls. Anyways, so that is the manipulation of time, correct?
Yeah, Chronos.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when he was talking about it, I don't know how many people did this, but how many people played Final Fantasy Tactics and used the Time Mage? That's exactly what it sounds like for me, and it hit that nostalgia of, I have always wanted this. I know standard wizards can get haste and stuff. But yeah, it was exactly the Time Mage flesh, and I was just like, oh my goodness, it was so awesome.
Nice. I don't know anything about Final Fantasy, so you can have it. And then the Graviturgist, I think, is going to be playing with gravity and moving things. Okay. And then I think who asked in there? Fatal Whisper asked, or no, was it Hitchhiker of the Mind in chat asked, wonders if we're getting Blood Hunter official published in here. That would be awesome, because right now it's only a bonus on D&D Beyond. I think is the only place you can really get it. Probably some third party on the internet somewhere. So it would be nice to have an official updated Blood Hunter is now there. I think there's enough love for Blood Hunter, and as Molly Mock was brought up, that we need to see some Molly Mock art in there. Would be kind of cool. So with these, you get some new spells, and again, I believe at least the spells that have been talked about and the spells that are in here are going to be based around this Dunamancy, or the manipulation of probability. One of them is Gravity Fissure, which hearing Mercer talk about it, it's basically, if you think of lightning, the spell lightning, that just goes straight in a 5-foot, 10-foot line. This now grabs anything within a range and pulls them within that line. So you could have people spread out, but now they're just being gravitated to this line and being taken out with this gravity fissure.
That is amazing.
So major battlefield control, just getting everybody, and then
And so then there was
Wow.
some, I don't know if he said the name of it, but there's some where you could stop somebody's action. So you could cast like stop on somebody, and it almost sounded like it makes them miss an entire round of combat.
Oh,
so
man.
and he said his example was, I want to deal with you later. Let's focus on this. And so it just essentially stops this. I don't know if I don't believe he said the name, because they did not allude to everything you're going to get, but you're going to get new spells.
Right. You're getting
Right,
a taste.
continue.
Another one was called Reality Break. That might be the one you're talking about. It sounds kind of cool. We could all use a reality break every now and then, you know. Maybe that is your stopping time and putting somebody else. But Gravity Fissure sounds like I mean, obviously that's going to be the Graviturgist.
Right.
You know, is going to be readily available there. They also talked about like haste and slow are going to be heavily,
staples.
you know, already in the D&D canon that are going to be transferred over. Other things, there's going to be some magic. So you're getting almost a DM's guide here. You're getting new magic items. You're getting some new monsters. Those haven't really been released.
One of the things I want to say about magic items, they're called vestiges. So there's things called the vestiges in here, and he has some of them in the game. All the vestiges he has in the game are nice. He said that there are some that are not nice. So vestiges really have 3 different classes: dormant, awakened, and exalted. So I picture this as the artifact from WoW. And if you guys have played the latest WoW, cool. The artifact from WoW, you get it at 110, and it levels all the way with you to 120. Or I think it was 100 to 110. I don't remember. But it levels with you, and it becomes like this good magic item that doesn't become stale. So standard magic items become stale when you level up, and you're like, okay, this is not good. I have to focus on this.
Those were a huge part. Campaign 1 spoilers. We'll just kind of touch on them, but those were a huge part of Campaign 1. Was the party coming up and gathering all of those vestiges of divergence and using them to defeat, you know. We'll just leave it at that. You know, the big bad guy. So that's cool. You can, and if Wildemount's not your thing, you could take those vestiges and put them in your homebrew. You can take them and put them in the Sword Coast. It doesn't. Nobody's telling you how you can and cannot use these. I think just having them saves a lot of time in creating your own stuff. You know, sometimes people don't have that kind of time, or they don't have that kind of creativity. Like let the other people do it. So yeah, there's those. There also in this book is going to be an intro adventure, and I think that's the best way to do this. Like, don't give us this and then wait for a full module in Wildemount.
There's 4.
Okay, so yeah, we're getting multiple intro adventures.
So you get
that we can grab right now.
4 intro adventures, and so in the book it breaks down like 4 different major areas of Wildemount, and each one of these intro adventures come from an area, and they are for levels 1 through 3. So they're really meant to get you into the game. I mean, the biggest thing that just hitting what we've talked about already, you get the lore, you get the races that are in Wildemount. So, the Dwindwali, I can't say.
Dwendalian.
Yes, Empire, the
Kryn.
The Kryn Empire. All of these things come in here, and they have different backgrounds. You get a breakdown of Wildemount, so different areas and whatnot. You get the history, you get the myth, you get the god pantheon, which you don't see very often anymore in just straight 5e books. There's a few, but not a lot.
So here's a question: 5e or just the gods in the Forgotten Realms? There are a ton of gods.
Oh yeah.
Is it just overwhelming? Because I think in Wildemount there's only going to be a few, so it's going to be easier to grab and like give attention to them. With the Forgotten Realms, I'm not dissing on it. It's just there's a lot. There's just so many.
It keeps growing, and it keeps growing.
How do you?
And it's just like,
how do you keep track?
Well,
yeah.
And yes, if you want to learn about all of the billions of gods, there's one person, I've dropped him in our Discord, Jordan. The PH is silent. His lore videos are phenomenal. He said he's going to do some Wildemount lore videos, which will be great, and I'll watch them. But I'm excited to have the small contained pantheon of gods because it does get confusing. I've played way too much, and it's still super confusing to me. You get the factions in the society. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the breadth and depth of Forgotten Realms gods is so overwhelming. Like, I've barely got the tip of the iceberg. So starting anew in Wildemount is kind of interesting to me, being a newer player, being introduced to all of this. Like, I get to start at ground zero.
Agreed.
Which I think is interesting.
I think it's good for many people that haven't played before either.
Yeah.
So this will probably drive a lot of people to play D&D, hopefully. But anyways, so you get the factions and societies that are in Wildemount. You get a deep guide into the locations on the continent. You get plot hooks for inspiring DMs, and this is different than the opening adventures. You get character options and then how the races fit within those options. You get 3 new subclasses. We talked about that. You get a heroic chronicle. So this is something I think is new-ish. I mean, there's some things like it, but the heroic chronicle is to help build a character background within Wildemount. Now, many of us already know Forgotten Realms. Many of us already are aware of Faerun and all of the different things that happen. This heroic chronicle quickly helps you make a character that fits perfectly within Wildemount without you having much knowledge of the area, which is pretty cool to me. So it gives you the new to be able to do this, right? So, and then we talked about the 4 adventures, new magical items, artifacts, and vestiges. Also, new monsters. New monsters will be added with this, which, okay, so now you're talking 300X pages, 306, whatever. This is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't play a game in Wildemount, take some of the stuff and use it in Forgotten Realms. It doesn't matter.
And I'll say, if you haven't followed Devin Rue on Twitter or Patreon, like, I've seen some of her Patreon gifts. Oh my god, they're pretty cool. But if you haven't, she's been hyping up. There's maps in here that she created and has been given tons of praise and thanks to Mercer and Wizards of the Coast for including those. I'm hoping. This is the new thing they're doing in the books that I love. Giving those perforated maps in the back that you can tear out. Like, I'm hoping we get Wildemount as a whole continent.
Yeah.
Perforated map that I can put on my wall. That's going to be great.
I got some space.
You're right. I don't know why they wouldn't. So I'm hoping that's in there. I haven't seen any news on that, but
I'm excited.
Go ahead.
I'm excited.
Yeah. So am I. At first I was kind of joining the poo-poo bandwagon. And I was like, okay, I watch Critical Role, so I have that. I don't really need this. But now that the more I'm getting into it, and the more the hype is building, like, I'm fully on board for this.
Yeah.
I approve 100%. So I want to get it now. Like,
well, and I want to say, Chris, you said you poo-pooed on it, but you didn't do it the way that is, like, toxic. You did it in the way in your head. You're like, I'm not super excited for this. Right. Don't be that toxic person. Don't go out there and just hate on something. We said it at the start. Don't yuck on somebody's yum. You don't do that. Like, that's not a good culture to create. It's not fun for anybody to be a part of that. Be positive. You don't have to like it. You're not forced to like it. And just because a company you love is doing something you may not agree with,
right?
But it's not a bad thing. They're not like torturing people.
Well, I forgot who said this. I wish I could give them credit, but they were talking about shelf life of editions of D&D, and they're wondering where are we at in the 5e shelf life, and if we're on the downward side, we're over the hill. Is there not going to be enough time to get a Planescape or to get a Spelljammer and have it be fully fleshed out? Like, that's what I think. That might be some of the uproar with these, like, OG D&D fans are struggling with. Maybe 5e is running its course, and I don't think so.
Well, So if you were
I
to
think
go,
we're gonna get an extended 5e.
it's been about 8 years from third edition on. So third edition was 2000, 3.5 was 2003, fourth edition was 2008. Fourth edition 2008, fifth edition was 2014. So you're in about the sixth year of 5e, and if you're about 8 to 10 years, you're probably hitting it. But
here's,
and I'll agree with you. The difference is I don't think Dungeons and Dragons, maybe other than when it first came out, has been this popular. It has never been center of the media, and you've never had all of these big name actors and all of these big names just come back and represent it.
And I'm speaking of ignorance here because I've not played any other edition of, but from what I've heard, this is the most streamlined, the most user kind of friendly version. So I don't consider that lowering the bar. I don't consider it pandering to the masses. But I think since it is that kind of version, I think the shelf life is going to be longer. And with, digital media becoming such a big thing, and D&D Beyond, where you can put edits out there, I don't know that it's just gonna vanish anytime soon. And we're on to 6th edition. I don't see that happening. Yeah. I could be wrong, but
I would be curious, with all of the unearthed arcanas that are coming out, they're adding to the game, and to be honest, they're slowly manipulating the raw rules to change them a little bit. So you have, they're talking about removing the racial bonuses, and so they're already doing that with additions in like D&D Beyond and Unearthed Arcana and stuff like that.
Yeah, and changing up the Ranger class. They've talked about new stuff and new. Man, I can't remember. It was one of the Unearthed Arcanas a little while ago, but new, not racial traits, but
feats,
yeah, stuff like that. So they are coming in with new things, new options, and I think that's the way to go. Instead of scrapping a whole system, going with something new. Just here's options that you can plug and play.
Agreed.
So
and so we have some some comments in there like Pathfinder 2, is more open. Maybe more people would play it. Fatal Whisper 5e is the easy addition for news people to get involved with. I started with 4, and that was a super crunchy game, and that was boring. And not because it was so heavy in the rule mechanics. I did Pathfinder 2 at Gen Con this last year. Oh, it is just so crunchy. I mean, oh god, it was so bad. And it's not for me. So like what Adam Islama said, might be alone, but honestly would like to see less dice rolling. In our Tomb of Annihilation, in Waterdeep, in Ghost of the Past, we would go sessions without rolling dice because it's such a fun, easy way to tell a story that you can do that. And I think 5e already allows for that for the most part. And it's really up to the DM whether you're doing it or you're forcing a bunch of checks and dice rolls and stuff.
Yeah. I would like to see, and we're getting away from Wildemount here. So I don't, and maybe we should wrap Wildemount up, and then we can kind of rant if we'd like. What do you think?
Sure.
I don't want to like stop momentum, but I do want to keep our Wildemount succinct, for editing.
Yeah, so let's wrap up Wildemount.
So right here. We'll wrap up Wildemount, and then we'll hang out and chat here and be more Q&A, maybe talking, just riffing here. But so again, Wildemount coming out on March 17th. Pre-orders available on Amazon and D&D Beyond. But again, I would encourage support those local gaming stores. They got bills to pay. And at least mine here in town is pretty awesome. So I think that's the route I'll go. But March 17th, Wildemount, the Explorer's Guide to Wildemount, Critical Role, and Matt Mercer's Homebrew World is now in an official D&D Wizards of the Coast module, or publication, rather. So that's our thoughts on it. We'd love to know what you think, how you're feeling about it. I'd rather hear less about what you don't like about it and more like what you're excited about in some of these things that have been presented from it. If you want to let us know down in comments if you're watching this on YouTube or in podcast form, let us know, please. Or better yet, join our Discord. We can continue this conversation for sure. Speaking of Discord, those one-shots I mentioned at the top of the show here, you want in on those? Discord's the place to go. You can find us on Twitter at FeatherFall TT. You can hear on Twitch all the time. You'll see the next stream we got coming up is Tuesday in the Teaguak spot. We got a one-shot from Jen. And then we got a couple weeks. The 25th will be a one-shot from Adam Aslamas. Curse of Strahd coming back February 2nd. We got stuff down the pipe all the way. We're excited for where we're heading. So thanks for supporting us. Fatal Whisper, thank for the Twitch Prime sub. We appreciate it. Anybody in there for the follows? I don't know if I missed any. But thank you for engaging with us and having a chat.